All right, welcome to the Becoming Great podcast. I'm enjoying my morning here with the founder of Great, Erik Bergman, and my good friend, Erik Bergman. How are you doing today?
I'm very good, thank you. I thought you were going to say your good friend Oscar, since I know your dog is in the room, and I was like, oh. But then you saved it and gave me some love, and I really appreciate that. How are you doing today, my friend?
You're welcome. Oscar is at kindergarten today, so you're my number one for now.
Aw.
Now, they say that the most valuable antique in the entire world is a good friendship. However, if I was giving a Rembrandt, I would switch you out, Erik. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Okay, and if you listening have an old Backstreet Boys poster and you want to trade it for Emil, let me know. You reach me at podcast@great.com, and if it's signed, you'll get 2 Emils.
Now, we've been friends for 10 years or so, and still we work together now. Is that something that you generally think is a good idea?
Okay, so the reason we're doing this podcast today is that we've closed our first real quarter, and we've been going into some challenges, like every business does, and we realized that those challenges become very different because we are close friends to each other, a lot of in the organization, and we want to explore if that's a good or a bad thing. And something that I, as you mentioned, very often give as an advice to other entrepreneurs out there starting up their business is don't hire your friends. And I realized that's pretty much like being a parent, drinking and getting drunk every weekend and telling my kids not to drink. It's not really gonna work, so they're probably gonna drink anyway. So that's what I'm doing. I'm hiring my friends. All of them are my friends, more or less. And yeah, I think it's a really, really bad idea to hire friends, at least historically. And yet I do it. So it's going to be interesting to explore the ups and downs with this. What do you think about this?
About working with friends?
Yeah.
Well, I definitely do enjoy it now since it's working well for us, but I can definitely see why that is being given as an advice. I can see a lot of problems coming up with that. And I think we're gonna explore many of those things in this podcast. Now, someone once told me that a friendship, it's like 2 ropes that you splice together. And together those 2 ropes become very strong, like a strong friendship. And a rope could be used to make a friendship stronger, or it could be used to strangle someone, or maybe hang yourself.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. And you have been creating a company, Katina Media, that have went from 2 employees to 250 employees in a short time. And you had some friends working with you during that time. Have you experienced some personal stories that I haven't heard about what that is like?
Yes, so I have a lot of situations where I've been working with friends, and that sometimes ended very well and sometimes ended very badly. And the first thing that comes to mind is, I don't know, 5 years ago, and I'll tell this as a story. So I'm sitting there with my friend, and I feel that I have this grinding doubt within me. We've been friends for 10 years, and I've always trusted him. Now I don't. And I want to trust him. I want to believe him.
Wait, so you're sitting in a meeting or is it an evaluation?
Yeah,
or
we're in the Yeah, we're in the office in a kind of peer evaluation, or just going over what's been happening lately. And the reason why we're in this meeting is that he has been working with us for, I don't know, 6 months or a year now, and he has been sick a lot, or he's been on sick leave a lot. And many times just one day this week, one day another week. And it's happening very regularly, and I feel that I want to believe that he has been sick. I want to believe that he needs my support, but I'm gotten into a situation where I think that he's taking advantage of me. And if we wouldn't have been working together, if he wouldn't get a salary from a company that I had, I would obviously believed him when he said he was sick. I would have been there to support him. I would wanting to help him. I want to figure these things out. And I want to be that person right now as well. But somehow I feel my emotions tell me that he's lying. He is taking advantage of me, taking these kind of things. And to this day, I don't know if he was doing that. But this is what money can do to a relationship, and where it happens. And every time I met him, I felt that I had doubt within me. I didn't really trust him. It affected everything around that friendship. And I'm not sure if this story doesn't end very bad. Nothing happens after this. I've had stories where I really lost friendships, that they went chaos, and I've gotten very close friends from working together. So there are both sides of this coin, but I think that this is the middle ground, and that happens in a lot of the relationships when you work together, that it's because you put money into the thing, it raises doubt and questions that in our relationship there, mine and his, it became like a constant presence of a dark cloud. Like you know, it can start raining at any time, but it can also stay sunny. And I don't know. So I think that it's a good example of what I think have happened in pretty much every situation where I've been working with friends at various degrees. So it's easy to say that it's good or bad to do it, work with people. But this has been a part that bothers me the most, because it's constant presence. And yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's gotta be very frustrating when you don't know if someone is taking advantage of you, or if there's actually something going on where the correct response would be empathy. But in this situation, how do you think the way you acted towards him were different when you were friends before, or if you weren't? If you weren't friends with him, what would you have done that you didn't do now?
It's a good question. I've been in those situations as well, and I don't think that I've acted very differently. I've probably been a bit more harsher in controlling the things, because I want to believe in my friends more than I want to believe in someone I don't know that well. And if someone would have been sick in a pattern like that, and me really questioning if they are sick, I might have asked for more proof of it from a doctor or things like that to erase that trust.
So I'm hearing you say then that you have more expectations that a friend would be loyal, and therefore you get more disappointed if you suspect that they're not.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. And at the same time, I want to be more loyal as well. So I feel more trust in them, and that means that I get more disappointed if they are not living up to that trust. And at the same time, I want to be more trusting. So I don't want to question their word in the same way as I would otherwise. I don't want to say, okay, Emil, I don't believe you. You need to bring a doctor's notice. Because we have a relationship, we know each other. I want to believe your word. But if you were someone I didn't know, and you came to me and you were sick one day a week for 2 months, not 2 weeks in a row, but actually just sick here, sick there, and just happen to be after the weekend very often, then that would be a completely different thing. I would have challenged you a lot more if we didn't know each other. So I say it works both ways, where these kind of situations of trust gets a lot more challenging.
So do you think that could be the other way then? That if you have trust, it could be easier to challenge, like what is actually going on here? That there would be more incentive for you to care about how is this person really feeling?
It's a beautiful way of looking at it. Now, when you put it like that, I feel that if it would have happened today, I would probably have been handling it a lot better, and I would have been able to use the trust to the situation's advantage, and actually challenge it more and question it more and be more present. When this happened, I did not have enough tools to do that and didn't know how to. So it's actually very interesting to see that I might just be more suitable to work with friends today than I used to be, because I could take that. Yeah, that's an interesting point. I haven't thought about it that way. I've just seen the negatives of this. But I think mixing money and friendships is a challenge. Well, I know it's a challenge. And I think it's a tricky thing that sometimes you want to avoid, and sometimes you can't avoid, and sometimes you don't. What's your experience with mixing money and friendship?
I just had a story that came to mind just now that I haven't thought of before. It's actually the opposite story. It's how money can build friendship. I'm a professional poker player. That's my background. And I was playing back in the days. I was playing in Italy, and many years ago, to get started playing in Italy, you had to know Italian people. You had to set up accounts. You needed tax codes. It was super complex. So instead, you could rent accounts from Italian people, and in Italy there is mafia, which means that you can get fucked. And indeed, we did get fucked. So.
Good, Emil. Get involved with the Italian mafia. I think it sounds like a brilliant idea to start a friendship.
Yes, but the mafia wasn't the friendship. So the friend was the Swedish guy. His name is Leo, and he's an awesome guy thanks to this. So I'll use his name. And so Leo, he was setting up the accounts, and lo and behold, the Italian guys scammed us, and they ran away with 30,000 euros. And before this happened, so I lost 30,000 euros of my money. And before this happened, we agreed that I was the one taking the risk here. So Leo had agreed to zero risk. And the guy ran away with $30,000. And Leo felt that thanks to him hooking me up with this shady man, that it was partly his responsibility that the money got lost. So he decided to pay. I managed to get 10,000 back from this guy, and the rest of the 20,000 or so, Leo paid me with his own money, even though he didn't have to.
Wow, so he took full responsibility out of nowhere.
And he didn't have to.
And you didn't expect that at all?
I didn't expect that at all. I really didn't. And
how did you feel when that happened?
Like, the trust is 100% with this guy now. You know, I could do business with him. I could trust him so much with money. Because he couldn't win anything from doing that. So, yeah, I'll always have respect for him. So, that was in a way where money could very much build strong friendship. And working together.
You rarely hear those stories. That's really cool. Yeah, and I can see a lot of challenges coming with. I mean, poker is a shady industry in itself in many ways. At least that's how it's looked upon, and I can see this happening a lot. Did you get scammed at other times as well?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. That's part of the game. It
is part of the game. I think I think you should. I think on average a poker player gets scammed for about 5% of their lifetime winnings. Or so. If you're above that, you're unlucky. If you're under that, you're lucky.
Yeah.
I think I've been slightly lucky actually.
Okay, I think we're taking the risk of ending up talking about things that people can't relate to by going too deep into poker.
Let's
but
stay on topic.
Do you have any other scam stories that ended worse to get some perspective on this? What can happen as well?
I do actually. Okay, we'll stick on poker.
Yeah, sorry you who listen if you don't like poker, because Emil really does.
To me, it doesn't really matter if it's poker. What it highlights is the risk and reward of being financially involved with friends.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, also back in the day when I was playing poker, I was staking one of my friends. And would you explain what that is?
Sure, nice pass. So staking is when someone else is playing with your money. So you're basically lending someone money to play for it, but if they lose, they don't have to pay back. But if they win, you will get part of their profits.
Yeah.
So you're kind of investing in another player in a sense.
Yeah, so they take no risk and they get a percentage of the winnings. Maybe in this case, I think it was half of the winnings this guy would get. And this guy is a friend with me and a friend with our entire friend group of maybe like 30 people. So he's involved with all of my friends. And I didn't actually caught him. So what he did was that he took the money that he had won on my account and he ship dumped, which means intentionally lost, to one of his own accounts.
So he basically stole the money that way.
Yeah, so he wanted to get out of paying me 50% of the winnings. So he intentionally lost money to his own accounts.
Okay, so it would look like he had lost to someone else, but he was actually the one on the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
So in that way, you wouldn't be able to see that he had lost.
Yeah.
That it was something fishy.
So he would just say that he had gone break even to me, and then he would take all the profits instead of 50%.
Okay, so you were actually... You had agreed that you would get 50% of the profits, and because he wanted to avoid that, he ended up on break even, losing the money to his own account.
Yeah, exactly.
How did you figure that out?
Well, he got caught, so the site found it. So they saw that they reviewed the play and saw that it looked like ship dumping. So my account got investigated for cheating, because you're not allowed to ship dump like that. So the site caught him, and then he had to call me and confess.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So you had hard evidence as well. It wasn't just a theory. There was
he admitted it. He admitted that he had shipped out. Because he had to. It was obvious.
So what happened after this?
Well, I didn't know what to do.
I understand that.
And the fucked up thing, I think, is that there was very few repercussions for him. Well, I have zero trust for him these days, but I haven't told anyone about this. This is the first time I tell this story to anyone.
Why didn't you tell anyone about it?
Well, I told him what I thought about it, and if this was today, I would have been much, much, much harsher. And I think I would have told more friends.
So how did you feel about this? Did you feel guilty or shame yourself for this? Or why didn't you talk about it?
I felt betrayed, and I felt like I don't want to trust people anymore unless there's proven trustworthiness. So I need, in order to invest money in someone, I have evidence that someone could have scammed me, but they choose not to, over many times, to be able to trust with money like this.
So would you say that this story still haunts you in a way then, that you have a lot harder trusting people than you would if this wouldn't have happened?
Well, I'm not sure if haunting is the right word, because it actually seems like it seems legit to think this way, because obviously these things happens. So I'm not as, to me it's more like I'm not that gullible, maybe.
When you say gullible, what do you mean?
just assuming that all people are nice and would take advantage. So I guess now I need trustworthiness to assume that. If not, I want to minimize the risks of being scammed.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. So are you guys friends today, or did this impact the friendship group, or?
We're friends. We are less friends because of that, because my trust is gone. And I haven't told anyone else because I didn't want to. I guess I didn't want to risk and split the whole friendship group. I'm pretty sure I would have today, but this was 7 years ago now.
Yeah, I understand. I'm not sure if I would have told anyone either. It's a very tricky position to be in. Do I want to be that guy that says these things, or do I want to be the guy who was naive enough to get betrayed, or what will people think of me if this is happening? And at the same time, I'm guessing that you wanted revenge in a sense.
I guess the way I handled that situation didn't really force him to learn from his mistakes. Because I think fair repercussions should have been more severe. It's a really, really, really shitty thing to do to a friend. Because this was a lot of money as well. I think it was somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 euros.
Wow. Yeah, it's safe to say then that mixing money and friendships are challenging for sure.
Yeah.
You think that's the biggest challenge you can put on friendship?
Well, maybe you could phrase it like this, that mixing money and friendship shows who the real friends are.
I like that. Yeah. Someone told me once, I don't remember who it was, but that when you put money on something, it becomes more of what it already is.
Yeah.
So if you put money on something good, it becomes better. If you put money on something with bad intention, it becomes a lot worse.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like gasoline on a good fire or a bad fire.
Yeah.
And that's probably what happens here as well. So if you have two friends that really, really trust each other and you put money in between them, then they create Google.
Yeah.
If you have two friends that might believe they trust each other, or one person is not trustworthy, and you put money between them, you create a war.
I think my mom always says that the opportunity makes the thief. And when running a business, it's important to not even give people opportunities. So have you been thinking like that when you created Catena, or did you go blindly trust until proven otherwise, that kind of route?
I would say that I still go with blind trust in many ways. And I mean, what you said before about people having to prove their trust before you're trusting them, in a sense, it goes against the way I want to look at the world. I want to look at it in a different aspect. I want to trust until proven different. So I want to start from a different place, and that has led to me being taken advantage of in a lot of situations with the company. From small things like, so we had a soda fridge in the office where there were free sodas and free Red Bull, and one day someone just took all the Red Bull with them home. Because they were free. So they filled the bag and they went home. And it's like, what? You don't realize that you're stealing from us? And they were like, but they're free. It's like, no, we're paying for them so you can drink them in the office. Not so you can bring them home, mix them with vodka and have a nice weekend. And we had another situation where we still don't know.
But can I just pause and ask, when someone is doing something like that, to me that is the same mindset that would ship dump and steal those 5,000 to 10,000 euros. It's just that they have another opportunity. So it's the same. It's the same characteristic. So I would lump those two instances in the same category these days, if I was looking at this. Because I think if that person had the opportunity that my friend was presented to, he would do the same thing.
It's likely.
Or it's very
I think
likely.
The biggest difference that I would say to see here is that I, as a founder of a company, I am not able to separate myself from the company. So whatever someone does to the company, to me, it feels like they're doing it to me. My friends, and this guy who took the Red Bull, they separate me from the company. To me, to them, in my experience, they see the company as some separate authority entity, like taking from school, and I see myself as school. And that means that they, in my experience, they have a lot easier time of taking from the company than they would have taken from me. They don't see how these two align, or maybe it's me who don't see how it's separate. But I don't believe that guy would ever go in and take 24 Red Bulls out of my fridge in my apartment. That wouldn't happen. That's far away. But it's tricky.
Take whatever you want in the fridge. All right.
Yeah, I mean, we've had worse situations where people have stolen money, where they have this claim that this flight ticket for some conference was a lot more expensive than it was. It done all kinds of these things.
And I do agree with you that it becomes easier to be dishonest when it's just number on a screen. So, for example, yes. I don't think that my friend would have gone into my apartment and steal something for 5,000 euros.
No.
But that doesn't feel like real money in the same way.
No, it's weird. It's digital. But yeah, it's tricky once you start combining friendship and companies. But when I look about it, the hardest things, I mean, when people have stolen from the company in one way or another, that's been very small things and rare occasions that happen every now and then. So I'm happy to start with trust still. I haven't been I haven't had the same sense of betrayal as you described. But I think the most challenging things when working with friends has been when I'm setting their salaries, or when I'm actually responsible for their quality of life, in a sense. And that's something that I think is really challenging between the two of us, that I'm setting your salary ultimately. If I said this or that would happen, or if I say you can't work here, then you can't. And I think having that between people, I think that we deal with it very well, and we share the same values, and we share a lot of things. But I've really seen how painful that is, and how strenuous that is for a relationship with previous employees and previous friends that I've been working with. Especially like if they get a raise or not will determine if they have to take the bus to the job or if they can drive a car.
And it determines if you like them and if you're proud of them.
Yeah, it determines self-worth in a sense.
Yeah.
And
projected from you.
Yeah.
Which makes it into a weird power dynamic.
Yeah, friendship should be equal. That's a great friendship is an equal friendship.
Yeah.
And by definition, this isn't equal. And just as it's hard to separate myself from the company in any other way, it's the same thing here. It's very hard for me to separate myself as a friend from myself as an employer when working with a friend. It makes it very challenging, and I would say that those has been the most challenging times. And yeah, one of the situations where where I actually lost a friend from this, and we've barely spoken since, was that we had so different approach to what we had agreed upon. So what happened was that he started working for us at a fairly low salary. I don't remember, like say 2,000 euros a month. And we agreed that he could start on that salary because he should learn and moving forward. And then we would renegotiate the salary 6 months later. And he moved from Sweden to Malta for this. So he was living in Sweden. And we hadn't defined what reviewing the salary meant. So then when 6 months had passed and was time to review his salary, my intention was, okay, let's raise it from 2,000 to 2,500, which was a good increase in my head. And his impression was, we raise it from 2,000 to 4,000 because that's what he considered that he was worth. And to me, that was crazy. And to him, it was crazy that I didn't think that way. So we were so far away from each other, and we hadn't clearly defined this at the beginning. So he felt betrayed by me, which I understand because I hadn't at all clarified what renegotiating meant. And he felt that he had moved from Sweden to Malta for this opportunity and that he had worked underpaid for 6 months and doing me a favor. And I felt that I was doing him a favor by teaching him something that he didn't know and bringing him down to this opportunity. And we didn't manage to sort this out. And I take a big part of this, and I learned from this that, okay, if I'm getting someone to move from somewhere, I can't use a loose phrase like we will renegotiate, we will look at it 6 months later. I have to define that somehow. Because now, he felt that I had misused his trust, and he felt that I that he misused my trust. So this is just one of these situations where we didn't manage to properly fix that. Yeah, it's tricky.
Wow. You know, you and I have had conversations lately in private about the importance of, I think maybe we even talked about this in the last episode. We talked about the importance of, for you as a leader and for anyone that wants to be a leader, that the words you use are easy to understand and most importantly worth their weight in gold. So if you as a leader say something's going to happen, it needs to happen. And if you can't be sure that it needs to happen, there needs to be some kind of frame, some kind of, okay, exactly this will happen unless something else happens. So, do you think, I feel like these ideas are connected. Would you like to re-say what I just said?
Yeah, so basically what you're saying that as a leader, trust becomes super important.
Yeah.
And that means that my word becomes very important, that's trustworthy.
Yeah.
And if I say something and it doesn't happen, that will damage my trust in all other areas as well.
Yeah.
It will not just impact that specific situation, but it will impact my word in every other situation as well.
Yeah, and if you two guys are friends outside of work, that means that your trust in everything goes down. So that can really ruin friendships, I think. I have an example of something similar. So right now I'm helping your brother because he's doing a project, and I think the project that Erik's Brothers is doing is a great project, and I want to help him make this real, and I want to help your brother develop as a person too. And I have some free space in my life, so I have offered him to help him with the project. Now, can you hear how the sentence "I help you with the project," how vague that is, and how loosely that can be interpreted?
Yes, that's like we will renegotiate.
Yes, and how much opportunity there is for disappointment. And if there's disappointment, there will be less trust.
Yeah.
So instead now, I had this recommendation from a friend, and he said, don't tell him that you'll help him with a project. Say that for 2 hours per week, for 2 months, I will help you with this project, and then I'll see if I still want to help. But you can't have any expectations. So you set a start and a finish.
I think that's a great way of doing it.
Yeah, because I think that's one huge pitfalls when working together, that there is a mismatch in expectations.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that would have been the equal of saying we will renegotiate this in 6 months, and if you've done a really good job, this is the maximum it can reach.
Yeah.
That would have been similar.
Yeah, for sure. And for you and me, for example, because a lot of my OKRs, meaning my goals for this quarter, is stuff where I learn things that will be useful for great in the future. So you are investing money in me as a person. Now, 6 months back, I wanted to have, because this has been looking like this for a while now, and I wanted to look at what are your expectations of me? How long do you expect that I will stay in this company and recontribute because of dedication that I have had an opportunity to get? And I think not having those conversations, and you and I were pretty much on the same page there, but that to me was a huge opportunity for disappointment.
Yeah.
If you expected me to stay in for 10 years and I expected to, well, if something better shows up, then yeah, and that would have affected our whole friendship outside of break.
Yeah, if let's say this year I'm at the moment mainly investing in you, I'm learning on the way, but the main thing is investing in you for the future. And you would just resign from one day to another, and I had expected you to stay on for 25 years. It would be very hard to come over that pain and be just hanging out like friends.
Yeah.
It's an interesting aspect, and I think this goes for any relationship. I just saw an episode of The Big Bang Theory, this sitcom, the other day, where Penny and whatever his name is, Leonard, they're married, and they've been married for a few years, and suddenly it comes up in the conversation that she doesn't want to have kids and he really wants to have kids, and they've never spoken about this before, which is this huge disappointment for him, and super reasonable. And of course she has the right of saying she doesn't want kids, but this should probably be a conversation coming up 3 years before you get married and not 3 years after. And it just raises the importance of touching upon these very important questions, regardless if it's working together or getting kids now.
So we have been highlighting some dangers now of working with friends. A lot of them are disappointment for mismatching expectations, and also that trust can be breached. So I would like to touch a bit on the upsides of this. So are you ready to move on from sort of the problems?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Feels like we can close that loop.
So there are some obvious things. For example, you and I are friends, and in a couple of weeks I'm going down to Malta, and we're going to do a boot camp where we focus on finance. For 10 days we're just hanging out, and all we're going to do is talk about finance. That's obviously a lot more fun if you're friends than if you're just someone you're working with, right? So, you work with someone that cares about you, all the chill time kind of becomes productive. You and I go out for lunch or walk, and then, we have some ideas for great. Those things are, obvious. But have you seen anything that might be less obvious as an advantage?
Yes. The first thing that comes to mind is what you touched upon earlier, how much you can do if there is trust. If there is a proper trust in someone, you can have deeper and more meaningful relationships and communication, and actually understand each other on a deeper level. And we are working a lot with feedback, and we're brutal in our feedback a lot of times, where if you see something with my personality that you believe hurts me as a leader, you will actually step up and tell me, even if it's very hard. And the first thing that comes to mind is this workshop we did in Stockholm about public speaking. And you and Spirits, who also works in the company, you had looked at this speech that I did on a stage, and it was filmed, and you went over it minute by minute. And I was actually very proud of that speech. I was very happy with my performance, and you were not. And especially not a couple of segments where I think you said the word that I disgust you here. It was very strong words. And yeah, what's going on here with you? Can you say what did I say? What happened?
Okay.
Let me think back what happened.
Yeah, that was a harsh word. And so what happened was that in one segment of this presentation, you talked about charity. And I thought, from my perspective, that you came from a Superman energy. That I'm a Superman for doing this. And I would have loved to see a more humble energy in that moment. And I thought, fuck, Erik doesn't see this himself, and it has to go. There needs to be like a headshot here, an ego headshot. And it's going to be painful, because I also know that the part back then in your ego that wanted to be Superman didn't want to see this. So it wasn't gonna go easy. So that was painful, but I felt like that harsh word was needed there to kind of snap you out of it. And you were just shocked, and it was like your reality was scattered, and you didn't know if you could trust me, and it was really, really, it was so intense. And I actually think it was more intense for me in a sense, because you knew what was going on in your head when you were sitting there, like frustrated.
Can I take the ball here and I'll give my perspective, and I'll take it back to you. So, yeah, we were going through this segment, and I mean, now I agree with you, but I really didn't see this. I felt that I was super humble and very good and very blah, blah, blah. I was really proud of my performance. And I was sitting in a place where I expected you to say kind things, and you were super, super harsh. And as you said, my world was scattered, and I found myself, I couldn't physically speak. I felt like if I start talking right now, I'm gonna cry. I felt humiliated. I felt betrayed. I felt hated. I felt horribly. And I remember I said, I'm just gonna need a minute here. And I started crying. And I lied down on this couch, and I saw you looking at me, and you looked pale. It's like, well, it felt like you didn't know what was going on right now. And if you want to continue from there.
I love how you described that. I couldn't have described what was going on inside of you, but this is what I suspected. And like the intensity in me was one of the more intense moments I've had. And to me, it felt like I had to risk the entire friendship to say this. And I was risking the entire friendship. And that is where the tension come from. And everything in me just wanted to say, take it back. Make this smooth again. Say something nice, like give him a compliment. And just sitting in that silence was one of my more painful moments in a friendship ever, I would say. Not taking it back.
Yeah, and you didn't. And I mean, this has resulted in me trusting that you will tell things to me even when they're super painful. And that I trust your judgment to do so, and to care for me that much that you're willing to sit through that pain. Because looking back, I agree. I think that you were spot on, and I would not have seen it. And since we were friends, I and very close friends, that is, I listened to you and I took this in, and I felt like I do trust your judgment enough to evaluate this. If we wouldn't have been friends, let's say you were some coach I had hired, I would probably not have been sad. I would probably stand up, scream at him, and tell him to get the fuck out of my my workshop, because the lack of trust. And yeah, it boosted my learning in a harsh but then loving way. So let's say we weren't friends. How would you have reacted in this situation if you were a coach that I had hired just to be there?
I think this highlights one of the huge advantages of working with a friend like this, is that I think unless I was the kind of coach that just loves that frictions, I'm sure there are coaches like that out there, but I think many coaches wouldn't care about you enough to be willing to sit in that fire. And I think, like you said, if you didn't trust me enough, you wouldn't be able to take it in.
No, I agree.
So the friendship is needed to care enough to do something, and then trust enough to let it be a part of you.
Yeah, so to sum this up a bit then, we could say that one of the huge upsides of working together as friends are that it can increase honesty and increase learning, that we can actually learn together and we can care for each other. And it increases the value of feedback because we know that there is a love and trust coming with it. Would you like to add anything to that, or did I sum it up well?
I thought you summed it up well. And we're coming towards the end of this episode. So do you have something to add before we sum up what new thing we have learned today?
Yeah, one thing that strikes me is, so I mentioned before, I've given the advice, don't hire your friends a lot of times. And I'd like to challenge that within myself and say, if you're hiring friends, make sure to know why. Because when I look back at this, a lot of the friends that I've hired have been because it's easy and it's fun. So I've hired someone because I don't need to go find someone else and recruit them. I know that I enjoy being around them, but I also know that if I were looking for someone, I could probably find someone who were more suitable for the job.
This thing needs to get done. This person is right next to me. They're okay. Let's go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for me, that's been the main reason why I've hired friends in the past. It's easy and it's fun. And it's a really shitty reason to hire anyone, if it's a friend or not. If you're if the reason you're doing it's easy and fun, not that it's the best person for the job, then it's a bad reason. And looking now, when I've hired you, that's sure, it's easy and fun, that's part of it, but the main part of it is trust, and I believe that you're the perfect one for the job. I don't think that I would find anyone who is better suited for what you're doing with Great if I looked everywhere.
Thanks.
So I think that's a big difference that I haven't thought about before when saying this, don't hire your friends. It's a very easy thing to say, and probably 9 times out of 10 it's the right advice. But it's because I think, and personally I've hired because it's easy and fun, not because it's the best person for the job. But if I'm hiring a friend and I can honestly say to myself, it's because it's the best person for the job, I've thought this through, it's a completely different story.
I can feel that from you, and sometimes you believe in me so much, you believe in me more than I believe in myself, and that makes me want to rise to to the level that you see.
I'm happy to hear that.
I really appreciate that. really do.
You're a rock star, my friend. You just don't know it yet.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's. Would you like to sum up what we learned?
Okay, what I've learned is that I want to think about the situation with my friend that betrayed me more, because I was just very ill-equipped to handle something like that back then, but I would like to make that into principles and know what I will do if something similar shows up again. And I will really think about what I could have done. So I realize I want to think more about how to handle betrayal with friends in the future. And this episode for me also highlighted, because that story about my friend that helped me out with poker, I haven't thought about that story for years, it just came to me now. It highlighted how much working together actually can strengthen a friendship. Because I think yours and mine friendship are way stronger because we have been working together for 2 years now than it would have been otherwise. So, yeah, work is a great opportunity for friendship, too.
To me, when you bring up the thinking about what happened with this guy who betrayed you, it sounds like there is a conversation there that would be beneficial for you to have with him today when you are better equipped.
I think you're right. I'll think about this.
It's a tough conversation to have, but it's to me, personally for me, that would be something that I would probably hold grudge about for the rest of my life, one way or another. Like it wouldn't be big, but it would feel like something in your shoe when you're walking. It's like it's a little annoying. It's not gonna kill you. It's not gonna bother you that much, but it's annoying, and it's a tough conversation, and it's opportunity to grow within it for sure.
I think so too.
Yeah. Yeah, the main thing I take with me is that last thing I said, that the big reason here between the difference of hiring a friend and hiring a friend. So I think I'm gonna change my advice when giving it to people from don't hire friends to saying don't hire friends for the reason that it's simple or that it's fun.
Yeah. Hire
friends if they're the perfect one for the job. And have that big asterisk next to it.
I think that's a really good note to end on. I think that's a solid principle. Let's save that one for the future.
Saved.
All right, and as always, remember, if you somehow get offered Rembrandt for your friend, you should trade. And all right, we see you next week. And if you have any feedback for this podcast, if you think we suck or if we're great or anything in between and want to give us advice as a perspective or want to be our friends, send an email to podcast@great.com. Say goodbye, Erik.
Goodbye, Erik.
Goodbye, Erik. You're a smart boy. All right, cheerio. Bye.